Sorry, there was a interruption due to some computer problem. So here is a case history. A 21-year-old male engineering student presents with 2 days history of sudden onset disturbed sleep, wake cycle, fearfulness, restlessness, aggressive behavior, and seeing insects and small creatures. He's also having high-grade fever and vomiting for last 10 days. There's no past or family history of any new psychiatric illness. Examination reveals temperature of 102 degrees Fahrenheit, anxious mood, ideas of persecution, and visual hallucination. He has disorientation in time, place, and person, and impaired consciousness, impaired concentration. So he's fearful, aggressive, having fever, and is disoriented. So what other information would you like to have on history and examination? And what is your diagnosis and differential diagnosis? So anybody, what is the diagnosis? Can anybody write the diagnosis? Hello? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello? So what is the diagnosis in this scenario? What is the diagnosis in this scenario? Any guess? Any guess? Hallucination. What else? At least you have tried. What else? Anybody else? Okay, no problem. So note down there is short history, 2 days history of disturbed behavior. Okay, and the person is having vomiting and fever for last 10 days. And he is disoriented and having hallucinations and delusions. So any scenario, any patient presenting with any psychiatric symptom, you would first consider in the diagnosis organic illness, physical illness. And here it's very obvious that the person is suffering from some physical illness. So it can be some, infection, meningitis, okay? Can be, coronavirus, okay? Can be typhoid, enteric fever, 10 days history. So any person presenting with psychiatric symptoms, please don't jump to the conclusion of schizophrenia or mania or depression or anything else, especially when there is some positive physical finding. For example, here positive physical finding is high-grade fever and confused mental state. Okay, so in this case, from psychiatric point of view, we would give the diagnosis of delirium. Okay, delirium, and we would be, discussing delirium in detail, and delirium and what are its causes. So by the end of this lecture, you would be conversant with International Classification of Disease, that is ICD-10, organic disorders. What is the difference between delirium amnesic syndrome, and dementia. These are three syndromes, and you need to know the difference, okay? And what is the differential diagnosis of delirium and its management? Hello. So dementia and delirium, okay? ICD-10 divides delirium into different categories. ICD-10 is a book of International Classification of Diseases. It is published by WHO, and nowadays its 10th edition is published, and 11th edition is coming. In ICD-10, each and every illness is given, and its number is given. For example, hypertension, diabetes mellitus, hypothyroidism. Okay, every disease is given in ICD-10, and its number is given. So, what is delirium? Okay, so what is delirium? So this scenario was of delirium, that the person was having psychiatric symptom of short onset, disturbed behavior, and was having under 2 degree Fahrenheit temperature, and he was confused and having hallucination and delusion. So what are the diagnostic guidelines for delirium? Delirium, delirium is very common, especially in ITC, CCUs. Delirium is very, very common, okay? And about 20 to 50% patients, might suffer from delirium in your ICUs and ITCs. Delirium was previously called confusional state, acute confusional state. So for the diagnosis of delirium, you need to have these criteria, okay? That the consciousness level should be impaired and attention should be impaired. So the person is confused, okay? Person is confused and disoriented, and he cannot sustain his attention. That is the first criteria. There is global disturbance of cognition, okay? So there can be hallucinations or delusions, okay, memory disturbance. So cognition is disturbed. Third is the patient might be very restless or might be very slow. So there are psychomotor disturbances, okay? Sleep is disturbed, and sleep-wake cycle is disturbed. The person is awake at night and sleeps during day, okay? So, and the fifth thing is that there are emotional disturbances. The patient might be depressed, fearful, or very aggressive. So consciousness level is disturbed, cognition is disturbed, the patient might be very restless or very slow, and sleep is disturbed, and there can be different emotional states. The onset of delirium is very rapid, okay? And the course is fluctuating. The person might be all right in the morning and he might become, confused in the evening. Okay? So the history is short, and the delirium usually ends if the cause is treated within days or months. Okay? And please keep in mind that when you diagnose delirium, that means that there is some underlying physical cause for this delirium. Delirium is always due to some physical disease. Some physical disease is causing delirium. Okay? So underlying cause is physical, And the syndrome presenting with psychiatric symptoms is called delirium, but the cause is physical. Okay, as we see the causes, you would understand it better. So here are the causes of delirium. Okay, delirium, any physical illness can present with confusional state or delirium. So you can remember this, that other men died from height. So men, M is for metabolic disorders. Different metabolic disorders like uremia, liver failure, respiratory failure, anoxia, cardiac failure, electrolyte imbalance can present with confusion. E is for epilepsy. So in epilepsy, there can be, confusion, especially when there is, fit. And there is a specific form of epilepsy which is called temporal lobe epilepsy or complex partial seizure. And neoplastic illnesses, focal tumors or metastatic tumors. So men, metabolic, epilepsy, and neoplastic illnesses. Okay, and diet. First D is for drug intoxication or withdrawal. For example, alcohol withdrawal, or benzodiazepine withdrawal, or opiates withdrawal. And I is for infections. So infections can be systemic, like pneumonia, enteric fever, UTI. Old people, have UTI and they present with confusion. Then intracranial infection like meningitis, encephalitis, brain abscess. Okay, and first V is for vasculitis, for example, SLE, and second V is for vascular like transient ischemic attacks or brain hemorrhage. Okay, and E is for endocrine disorders, hypo and hypothyroidism, parathyroidism, Addison disease, Cushing syndrome, hypoglycemia, diabetic ketoacidosis. And again, D is for deficiencies, vitamin and other nutritional deficiencies. So diet, okay, drug intoxication or withdrawal, infections, vasculitis, vascular illnesses, endocrine disorders, and deficiencies. Okay, diet from height. H is for head injury or subdural hematoma. And other, O is for other causes like painful conditions, sleep and sensory deprivations, acute and chronic organic brain diseases whenever there is dementia and superadded confusional states. So these are the causes of delirium. So whenever you would diagnose a patient to be suffering from delirium, you would investigate to find out one of these causes. Okay, so you would write the investigations according to the clinical picture. Okay, and you might write, blood complete picture and urine RE and liver function test, blood urea and electrolytes, and you may opt for lumbar puncture. Okay, so depending on the condition of the patient, you would advise the investigations to detect the underlying cause. Is it clear? So, what are the management guidelines for delirium? So first need is to do the extensive biopsychosocial assessment of the patient. Okay, take the complete history, do the physical and mental state examination, and do the relevant biopsychosocial investigations. And ideally, this is a medical emergency, so the patient should be admitted in intensive care, and relevant investigations should be done promptly. And the relevant physician, he might be, a medical specialist or surgical specialist or gynecologist, depending on the cause, should be urgently called so that he or she should see the patient and advise accordingly. Psychiatrists would come into picture only when there is a management problem. The patient is not sleeping well, is restless or aggressive. So only then the patient would be referred to psychiatrist. Basically, this is a medical or surgical patient, okay? And they would, manage him accordingly. So it's a medical emergency, so you need to monitor the vital signs, intake output chart, dehydration, electrolyte imbalance, nutritional deficiencies be corrected. Okay. If the patient is dehydrated, you need to correct the dehydration and electrolyte imbalance. And you would take measures to prevent the patient from harming himself or others. So there should not be any object like knife with the patient. And if the patient is very restless and aggressive, he can be restrained. There need to be sportive contact with the familiar people. These people become more confused if unfamiliar people come. So it's important that familiar people should visit the patient. And there should not be darkness or excessive light. There need to be appropriate light. And you need to frequently tell the patient what is the date, what is the day, what is the time of the day, okay? And you need to have some calendars or watch to reduce the confusion. And you need to introduce yourself to the patient, even if you are a close friend or a relative of the patient. So these are general measures, okay? Detailed history, biopsychosocial assessment, admission as medical emergency in ITC, and refer to the concerned specialist, correction of electrolyte and water imbalance, and prevention of harm to self and others, and sportive contact with the family, and frequent reorientation. So medication, what medication we can give? So basically it's a treatment of the underlying cause. If this is, there is typhoid fever, you would treat typhoid fever. If there is COVID-19, you would treat COVID-19. If there is meningitis, you would treat meningitis. If there is sodium deficiency, you would give sodium deficiency. So treatment of the underlying cause. Usually we don't give sedative or hypnotic medication, except when there is alcohol or sedative withdrawal. And if necessary, we can give some antipsychotic, for example, haloperidol or Serenase, okay, 1 to 2 milligram by mouth or by injection. And we can repeat it when the patient is very, very aggressive. And we can give, lorazepam sleep disturbance. Usually we avoid benzodiazepines, and you need to give informational care to the patient and to the family. And you need to explain that this strange behavior or speech problem is due to medical illness. As the primary cause is treated, the patient would have, complete normalcy as far as his mental state is concerned. So this is delirium, okay? So delirium is of short duration, sudden onset, okay? And the person is having disturbed consciousness level, disturbed attention, cognitive disturbances, sleep-wake cycle disturbances, restlessness, emotional disturbances. And the cause is physical. You need to investigate for that cause and admit the patient into ITC. So this is delirium. Is it clear? Hello? Is the concept of delirium clear? Nobody is answering. So any person presenting with psychiatric symptoms in the differential diagnosis, you would first consider physical illness, okay? Even if there are clear-cut symptoms of depression or schizophrenia, even then you need to consider physical illness. And when the person is confused and having some, physical sign like fever, then there's definitely underlying physical cause. At times, delirium and psychiatric illness can coexist also, just like hypertension and diabetes mellitus. Okay? So then you need to treat both the illnesses. So this was brief introduction to delirium. Now, what is dementia? Okay. Dementia is when the symptoms persist for more than 6 months, okay? And the person's consciousness is clear usually, and there is global disturbance of memory, cognitive functions, and personality. The consciousness is clear, and there's global disturbance of personality, memory, and other cognitive functions like thinking, attention, orientation, comprehension, calculation, learning capacity, language, judgment, executive functions, visual perceptive skills, practices. Consciousness is not clouded. So dementia is a global disturbance of memory, other cognitive functions like thinking, perception, okay, language, and also personality. And the consciousness level is clear. Impairment of cognitive function are commonly accompanied and occasionally preceded by deterioration in personality, manifested in poor emotional control, inappropriate social behavior, or lack of motivation. So, dementia produces an appreciable decline in intellectual functioning and progressive interfering with personal activities of daily living, such as washing, dressing, eating, personal hygiene, activity, and toilet activities. So, a person with dementia presents with forgetfulness. Okay, he starts forgetting day-to-day things, and initially, short-term memory is lost. Okay, and gradually the intellectual functions deteriorate and the person cannot look after himself. So again, there are different causes of dementia. There are different dementias, and I've tried to uh, make a formula so that you can remember it. Okay, so causes of dementia, again, other men die from height. So the commonest uh, dementias are degenerative dementias, okay? And the commonest of that is Alzheimer's disease, Pick's disease, Parkinson disease. Then metabolic illnesses can lead to dementia if persistent. For example, uremia, renal dialysis, liver failure, chronic respiratory failure, severe anemia can lead to dementia. Uncontrolled epilepsy can cause dementia. Different tumors, especially like frontal lobe tumors, can cause dementias, frontal lobe dementia. Drug toxicity, alcohol poisoning, heavy metals, organic solvents, organophosphates. Infections like encephalitis, HIV, neurosyphilis, vasculitis, SLE, multiple sclerosis. Vascular illnesses like multiple strokes, subdural hematoma. Endocrine disorders cause dementia, like hypo and hyperthyroidism, and hypo and hyperparathyroidism, Addison disease, Cushing syndrome, hypopituitarism, chronic hypoglycemia. Then different deficiencies, vitamin deficiencies can cause dementia, and head injury. And other causes include normal pressure, hydrocephalus, post-radiation, pseudodementia. Pseudodementia is a sort of dementia in which there is no real dementia, but the person behaves as he is suffering from dementia, and it occurs in depression. So these are different causes of dementia: degenerative, metabolic, epilepsy, neoplastic, drug toxicity, infection, vasculitis, vascular endocrine disorders, deficiencies, head injury, others. So almost the same headings as in delirium, but the important group I have put on top, that is degenerative. Alzheimer's disease, Pick's disease, and other degenerative dementias, Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. Okay. There are certain dementias which are reversible. Degenerative dementias are not reversible. So you need to keep that in mind. For example, normal pressure hydrocephalus, operable tumors, hypothyroidism and other endocrine disorders, neurosyphilis, deficiency of vitamin B12 and folate. So whenever you get a patient of dementia, you need to see and investigate for these causes. And if these causes are detected early and treated, then dementia can be treated. So what are the guidelines? Same pattern. General management, you need to have detailed history, physical, mental state, and cognitive state examination, biopsychosocial assessment, biological investigation in keeping with the assessment and general causes of dementia, especially to rule out reversible dementias, May be admitted if there's confusion, psychosis, or some other complication, but may be evaluated and treated in the OPD. Multidisciplinary approach, timely referral between different specialist agencies. Treat any underlying physical disorder or comorbidity like hypothyroidism. Continuing reviews of patient's needs and backup for the carers. So the carers of dementia people are under great stress, and one needs to, cater for that stress also. Take measures to prevent the patient from harming himself and others. So a patient from dementia can wander off and can go from his home and get lost. So you need to be careful. You should not drive, and there should be advice about the financial matters because his judgment becomes poor. Okay. Provide frequent orientation, reminders of time and place to reduce disorientation. Introduce yourself to the patient even if you are a close friend or a relative. So gradually when the dementia progresses, the memory becomes very, very disturbed. So you need to orient the patient to the time, place, and person. So appropriate financial support, legal matters, you might be needing advice in legal matters, residential care, uh, and you need to see that whether any abuse or neglect of his needs is going on. Uh, as the cultural values are shifting, changing, so the care of old people in our culture is also becoming problematic, and many old people and people suffering from dementia undergo abuse and neglect. And informational care to the family and to the patient. And what non-pharmacological interventions you can advise? Sensory stimulation like music therapy, massage, touch, or aromatherapy, behavioral management, pet therapy, exercise, structured activity program, environmental modification, carer education, and sport. And one thing is important in this, that is diet. Mediterranean diet is found to be helpful in the prevention of dementia and also exercise and mental activities. And there are different medications which slow down the progress of dementia, memory loss. But there's no medication available which treats the dementia once it has started. Okay, so there are adjunctive medication. For example, if there is agitation, you can give trazodone or carbamazepine. For severe agitation, you can give risperidone in low dosages. For depression, betazapine or citalopram. And for severe behavioral problems, you might give haloperidol in low dosages. But these old patients are very sensitive to antipsychotic medication, and there can be serious side effects, especially in one type of dementia, which is called Lewy body dementia. Okay, and there are various drugs available. For example, acetylcholinesterase inhibitors, and we prescribe these drugs, one of these drugs. For example, donepezil, Aricept, is given from 5 to 10 milligram daily. Okay, so Can you differentiate between delirium and dementia? Dementia is global impairment of memory, intellect, that is cognitive functions and personality, in the presence of clear consciousness, while delirium is of sudden onset, short duration, and there is impairment of consciousness and other cognitive functions. Okay? So dementia is diagnosed when the symptoms persist for more than 6 months, while the delirium can be diagnosed with a few hours history. And when delirium lasts for 1 month, this is called acute delirium. When more than 1 month, that is called subacute. Is the difference clear? Is the difference clear? Can you hear me? Is the difference between delirium and dementia clear? Okay. Now, third condition is important because it usually an SEQ in your exam comes regarding this. And this is called amnesic disorder. In amnesic disorder, there's specific impairment of episodic memory manifesting itself as inability to learn new information. That is interrograde amnesia, and to recall past events, retrograde amnesia, in the absence of evidence for generalized intellectual functions. So what is the difference between dementia and amnesic disorder? In amnesic disorder, only memory is impaired, other intellectual functions are intact, and personality is intact. Clear? In amnesic disorder, only memory is impaired, personality and other intellectual functions are intact. While in amnesic disorder, while in dementia, personality, memory, and other intellectual functions are impaired. So this is the syndrome which usually lead to amnesic syndrome. This is called Wernicke's-Korsakoff syndrome. This is disorder of acute onset characterized by ataxia, nystagmus, ophthalmoplegia, peripheral neuropathy, and a global confinement state leading to chronic amnesic syndrome. So when there is initially Wernicke's encephalopathy, there would be ataxia, nystagmus, ophthalmoplegia, and peripheral neuropathy. And when memory impairment would come, this would be combined into one syndrome, which is called Wernicke's-Korsakoff syndrome. So this amnesic syndrome, Wernicke's-Korsakoff syndrome, can be due to different reasons. For example, due to thiamine deficiency, herpes encephalitis, vascular disorder, head injury, focal space occupying lesion. But the commonest cause is alcohol, drug abuse, okay? And what would be the differential diagnosis? Drug abuse, delirium tremens, dementia, chronic hypoxia, head injury, hepatic encephalopathy, post-rectal state, cerebrovascular disease, brain tumor. And first differential diagnosis was the causes of amnesic syndrome. This is the differential diagnosis, okay? So various investigations, especially to rule out this alcohol addiction or withdrawal. Blood CP, particularly looking at MCV, which is increased blood urea and electrolytes, serum LFTs, blood glucose, arterial gases, serum thiamine level, red cell transbutylase, LP, CTR, MRI, brain, EG, depending on cause you are suspecting. Again, multidisciplinary approach in management, detailed history, physical, mental, and cognitive state assessment, reassessment. And assessment of comorbid conditions like delirium tremens, beriberi, peripheral neuropathy, malnutrition, dehydration, infections. All these conditions can cause uh, thiamine deficiency and amnesic syndrome. Treat as medical emergency if symptoms are acute. Okay. So the patient would need large doses of thiamine, 500 milligram TDS for 2 to 3 days. If the response occurs, further 250 milligram to 500 milligram intramuscular for 5 days. Okay. And you can, if there is a drug addiction, you can refer him to rehabilitation program. And for prevention, avoid alcohol use, thiamine supplements, at-risk patients like homeless with inadequate social support, adequate follow-up. So I have gone through a lot of organic psychiatry in this short time. The key learning is you need to rule out the physical cause first. Don't directly diagnose the person to be suffering from anxiety or depression or schizophrenia or mania. First consider the physical cause. Okay, even typical schizophrenic picture can arise from physical cause, and then you can see whether the picture fits into delirium or dementia or amnesic syndrome, and then you would investigate accordingly and manage accordingly. Thank you very much. Any question?